County Public Works, we ready to go, Andrea? We good?
We are, yes.
Okay. Cuyahoga County Public Works Procurement and Contracting Committee for Wednesday, October the 6th, 2021. We called to order. Roll call, please.
Good morning, everyone. It is now 10:03 a.m. As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county YouTube page. Calling the roll, Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Conwell.
Present.
Ms. Baker.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any public comment this morning?
No public comment was submitted.
Okay, and if I could have approval of minutes from the September 22nd, 2021 meeting?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. And Madam Clerk, if we could have the first matter referred to committee, please?
Resolution 2021-0220, authorizing the Director of Public Works to execute and submit a loan application in the amount of $3,359,000 to State of Ohio Public Works Commission to finance a portion of various Pleasant Valley Road bridge projects in various municipalities. For the following projects: 1, rehabilitation of bridge number 0903 over Riverview Road and an unnamed creek in the city of Independence. 2, rehabilitation of bridge number 0935 over Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad in the city of Independence. And 3, replacement of bridge number 09.68 over Cuyahoga River in the city of Independence and village of Valley View.
All right, thank you. And if we could just have your name for the record.
Nicole English with Public Works.
Okay, and what is this or piece of legislation regarding, Nicole?
So this is allowing us to execute and finalize the loan application for, this is what we call Issue 1, OPWC. Typically, we don't go for a loan in Issue 1. However, this project is pretty expensive. So the construction is estimated around $23 million plus some contingencies, so up to $25 million. Bridges, as you know, when we replace them, have a lifespan of 50 to 75 years. So the 0% loan payback over 20 years is well worth it on the bridge side. It also helps our points and scoring when we ask for both a loan and a grant. So we were awarded a OPWC grant in the $6.2 million range and a loan in 3.3. So the grant we're able to accept without coming to council. The loan, we have to come to council for approval. This is a 3-bridge project. 2 of them have federal aid money. I did supply council staff kind of a breakdown of the funding between design, construction, and the different funding sources that I think has been shared with you. And the idea is that we would sell this project early next year for construction starting in 22. It's likely a 2.5-year project. Again, 3 bridges, pretty complicated and expensive. So that's the length of why it's going to take so long to construct.
Okay, and has the state weighed in on the loan application yet?
Yes, so we have been awarded both the grant and the loan. This is just now the final step. So we know we do have it for this current fiscal year. So we have to start the project before the end of June of 22.
Okay, and then as always, I know you guys grade the bridges. What are the conditions of these bridges?
So I know 2 of them are 4s and 1 of them is 5 in the general appraiser rating. They were all built around 1955. So that's kind of the age of all of them.
For those who might not be familiar on the committee with the scale, what is a 4 or a 5?
0 to 9, 9 being just built new. At 4 and 5, it's eligible for this federal funding that we get through the County Engineers Association. So at a point where it's needing repair for sure. Okay,
and you indicated it'd be about a 2.5-year project. Will all 3 be under construction at the same time, or
yes.
Is this going to be taken?
So the idea is that you're only going to use, the maintenance of traffic one time. So they're kind of do one side of the bridge, all of the bridges, move the traffic over to the new part, and then do the other side of all of the bridges.
Okay.
So that's how it works.
That's fine. Any questions from my colleagues? Ms. Baker?
Clarification, 6 million was the grant and 3 million was the loan. Is that what we're looking
right,
at?
6233980 is the grant, and the loan is 3359000.
So a total of 9, almost 10 million.
Yeah, like 9.5 is coming from OPWC overall. So the overall pot of OPWC is about 30 million. So again, taking all of it in grant also is a bit selfish on our side. So we also see the benefit of taking some loan to help other communities.
Okay.
May I follow?
Yeah.
Is there a time limit on when when these loans or grants can be taken, where it renews next year, or?
So we were awarded this current fiscal year, so we have to start the project before June 30th of '22.
Okay,
And then the payment starts when we finalize construction the next half a year. So either the January or June that follows is when our first payment is due. And then it's a 20-year,
that pot of money.
correct?
Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Conwell?
Through the chair to Ms. English, so it's just the grant and the issue one money, or is
No,
there
there's
some other
also,
funds?
yeah, federal funds to the tune of 8.5 million in federal funding, and then the county road and bridge is paying the remainder.
Okay, and how much is our portion we're putting?
For construction, it's about 8 million, overall 13 million with design costs. We paid all the upfront design costs on the project, and any construction inspection is on us too.
So what's the total cost of the project?
Total with engineering, construction, a contingency, and construction inspection is 32 million for 3 bridges. I know it's pricey.
That's kind of like our ERP fund.
Except we've got some other sources helping us here, so that's good.
We can get federal and state help there.
Yeah. Out of my wheelhouse, but maybe.
I know the bridge project will end. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. So as far as the ask, as far as time, could this have 3 readings?
Yeah, it can
Okay,
go
we're-
through
'cause
readings.
January, we
Yes.
should be okay, right?
As long as we have it done before we sell the project.
Okay,
we're
so
good.
I'll make a motion to move this along for second reading. Do I have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to move R 2021-0220 along for second reading. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you could please read the next piece of legislation.
Resolution 2021-0221, making an award on requisition 6721 to Sona Construction LLC in the amount not to exceed $2,320,000 for a modernization of elevators in Jail 2 at the Justice Center Complex.
Okay, and if you could just please state your name for the record.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Matt Reimer with the Department of Public Works, Facility Design and Maintenance Administrator. And I have a 2-piece briefing here for you, just a short presentation to go over the project need. Thank you to the clerk for supporting that. And then also I'll go in through the procurement aspects of this bid and go through those specifics as well. So the need of this project is to modernize the elevator systems in the Jail 2 structure. That's the 1995 tower that is in the southwest corner of the Justice Center complex. That elevator system has not been modernized previously, and we are in desperate need of doing that to address safety and reliability concerns of just the age of the equipment and what the inspectors are seeing when they go in and perform their regular city elevator inspections. These elevators are of particular importance to the function of the corrections center. I'll get into some diagrams to show you here a little bit where they're at, but these elevators support the major logistics support going up and down that jail tower. And as you may know, the kitchen is in Jail 2, and so all meal distribution is coming up through some of these elevator systems and then out to the remainder of the corrections center, as well as inmate transfer throughout the housing units in that tower. The scope of what we're proposing is we started design in January of 2020 after some extensive studying of what we needed to do and the minimum of what we needed to do. We're going to replace in kind the 5 elevator systems with geared machines. That's a replacement in kind of like-to-like equipment. We're also going to do code-required hoistway equipment replacements, hoist cables, and other pieces of equipment that handle the weight handling systems of the elevator, and some other code-required electrical and cab and controls upgrades to those elevators. And as I mentioned, these elevators are critical to food service and logistics distribution and inmate transport within the tower of Jail 2. I know there's a lot of rectangles on this page, but this is just an unspecific floor plan intended just to show you a couple of items, and I'm not sure if my cursor can be seen, but up here are elevators 4 and 5, And those are a major logistics elevator that come up. It's major freight for equipment and food distribution coming up from the kitchen, and also inmate transfer. And then elevators 1, 2, and 3 support personnel circulation throughout the Jail 2 tower, inmate transport, as well as visitation, which happens on the other side of the secure perimeter. So those are the three different components that these elevators support. The readiness of this project, we have been going through this design extensively, not only with our consultant partners, but with the state of Ohio and the city of Cleveland Building and Housing Department, specifically their elevator inspector team. So that scope was developed in close coordination with the elevator inspector. We do have City of Cleveland approval on the project, so we're ready to pull our permits upon award. We also have the project approved by the state of Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, ODRC. They approve all projects within the secure perimeter of the jail. And what I wanted to show you just on the picture diagram here is just a vertical plan, elevation view rather, of how the elevators head to each floor. So not all elevators go to each floor, and that creates a significance there of needing to modernize all 5 versus only getting to certain elevators. I recognize that this is happening at the same time that we're talking very publicly about a new corrections facility. And we're working inside the department very hard to determine what of these items do we have to do in the existing facility, and what items do we not have to do while we await decisions and await approvals of a new facility. This, unfortunately, is one of those items that has to be done. We're out of time on this and do not have the ability to defer this work any further, especially the 4 years it'll take to transition to a new correction center at best speed. But we have considered this and tried to minimize the scope as best we can. For example, our elevator consultant has specified geared machines. If we were doing this for a facility that was going to remain for its future life, we would have probably done a gearless machine, something more modern, but this will be more readily available, more easy to transition for a construction schedule. And also, we're going to look to see if we have any kind of salvage value at the end of life here. We're not sure of that yet, but we'll be looking at that. We also considered our bid structure when we went out to bid. We have 3 separate bid line items on this contract for elevators 4 and 5, which are the most important elevators for us to get done. For elevators 2 and 3, which are the inmate transport elevators, and then elevator 1, which is the visitation elevator. So if we get to a point where we can descope any of these based on external decisions, we have the ability to consider that based on how we bid the project. I don't anticipate that'll be the case just based on timing, but we did consider it and are ready for it. That is the end of my need presentation. Just going over the specifics of the actual bid. We did bid this project twice. We bid it at the beginning of the year. It opened in February of 2021. We only had 1 bid, and because of the way it was bid, we had to reject that particular bid, so we did rebid the project. It opened in August of this year. We had an engineer's estimate of $2.7 million. The bid, as you can see, based on the legislation, is $2.32 million. So we're underneath the engineer's estimate, and we are underneath the rejected bid that we had back in February, coincidentally, which was the same contractor. We did receive 2 bids for this project, and this was by far the lowest and best, lowest in quantity, and had a very good bid package. Sona Construction is an MBE SBE prime firm, and they met all the diversity requirements as evaluated by Director Lockett. With that, stand ready to answer any of your questions on the project.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reimer. Appreciate the presentation. As far as the bid process goes, why was it rejected? What was the rationale behind that?
We had a requirement in the original bid that the project be bid by elevator contractor as the prime. We did not get any elevator prime contractors to bid the project, only through a general contractor. So we had to based on interest from other people that chose not to bid, we had to reject that. And then we recrafted our bid specifications to allow general contractors to be the prime contractor on the contract. So that's why we had to rebid a second time.
So there were no elevator contractors directly interested in bidding on that?
As far as the prime contractor, yes. Of course, there are elevator contractors as major subcontractors here in this contract, but none of them bidded as the prime.
So let's talk about the fact that, you know, we are looking at replacing the jail. And could you just, excuse me, could you just expand a little bit on why this is an essential need?
So we have been working, as I mentioned, with the City of Cleveland Building and Housing Department, their inspection, elevator inspection team. This is a mandated requirement for them. This equipment is 25 years of continuous operation, 30 years in technology, and we just cannot maintain the systems much longer to the satisfaction of the inspector. We continue to get deficiencies at every major inspection. Coincidentally, one from last week that we just got notified on that we're busily trying to find parts and pieces to correct for elevator 1 and 2 of these 5 elevators. So we continue just to have deficiencies mount up and just do not want to live with those safety concerns for 4 years of jail operations or a functional inability to meet the function and need of the jail if one goes down and it cannot be brought back up.
Do you have concerns about any of elevator repair work for either the Justice Center or the other jail?
Let's see. So I'm going to go off of memory here, Councilman, and then I can provide a full briefing to you offline if you wish, or back to the committee. But it's my understanding that I believe in the mid-2000s, I'll confirm my timing, that all of the Courts Tower and Jail 1 elevator systems were modernized. So they have already been through that modernization process once. The 2 buildings that have concerns on elevators would be this structure, because it is the newest one, but has not been modernized. And then Tower 2, which is the former police building. Those elevator systems have not been modernized and need to as well.
And how will the safety measures work with the vendor?
With respect to working inside the correction center?
Yeah.
So I will say that most of the general trades work are in our mechanical spaces and will be escorted by not only a corrections team, but a member of Public Works. Probably one of our stationary engineers will be in those spaces with the general contractor for any trades work. For the elevator work, the contractor to Sona Construction on this job is Schindler Elevator, and they are already our maintainer of the elevator systems. So they're construction teams, so they are already familiar with the correction center as they work in there extensively on a day-to-day basis and are badged in to meet that need.
Appreciate that. And then finally, what is the timing element on this and needing this done?
We would not expect performance of this to be done until late in 2022, just based on the lead time of some of these geared machine pieces of equipment. And that's a little bit hard to predict right now, given the nature of the market right now. But we were already anticipating an 8 to 12 week time frame at the front end of the project for delivery of equipment. And then we have to phase through each of these elevator systems. We'll be working on one of elevator 4 and 5 first, and then the other. It takes, and so just to go sequentially through those elevators will take time. So
Okay, I appreciate that. I'll open the floor to any questions from my colleagues.
Mr. Toomer.
Okay. I heard Ms. Conwell and then Mr. Miller and then Mr. Sweeney.
All right, through the chair to Mr. Reimer, is there a scoring for elevator systems?
a scoring as far as condition assessment.
Yeah.
Not like you're familiar with the road and bridge, but we do have our inspections that outline the deficiencies that we need to correct.
And how is it determined an elevator needs updating?
Through age and best practice, but also on documentation of those deficiencies. We also had an assessment, a condition assessment study done on those in preparation for this design.
And last question, times that we're in, are parts available for this project?
We did specify the work to be of the simplest kinds of machines that should be able to be available. Again, I can't predict what the COVID is, market disruptions are doing to the elevator industry, but we did specify this to be a replacement in kind of existing technology. We're not modernizing to the point of things that are not becoming available. So I would expect that we will be okay. It's just a matter of lead time.
And when will the project start?
The project will probably start the general trades work first, because that's the stuff that's most readily available. Specifically, we have some electrical work to do in the machine rooms, HVAC modernization, and some other things in the elevator systems before the weight handling equipment becomes available and able to be replaced. So we would start, it is speculating, before the end of the calendar year for sure on that trades work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. And then we had Mr. Miller.
Mr. Chairman, Marty was first, so I'll defer.
Okay, Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just, we all anticipate the building's going to be torn down, right? But there is some discussion that it's going to be kept, and the thought process behind, through the chair, to put the gears in. But if it's going to be kept, did you think about put the non-gear one in, because it might be more marketable in the future if has elevators ever last longer?
I mean, the consideration for that kind of decision is mainly based on efficiency of the equipment and energy efficiency. That's long-term. I think we're still fine with the simpler equipment. The bigger need is to only focus on what our minimum investment footprint of this is. You're right, Councilman, in that if that tower remains, that elevator system will need to be operational to maintain any reduced or different occupancy of the structure. But what we're putting in will be just fine for that occupancy.
Mr. Chairman, to the presenter, thank you. That's it. I think we just need to make a decision, are we going to tear it down or not?
Right.
And then we could not have to have these questions as we move forward. The more we do, the more difficult your job will be. So thank you.
Okay, Mr. Miller. Thank you, Mr. Sweeney.
So, Mr. Chairman, I was not clear from your answer as to whether there's a need for second reading suspension, even though we have a pretty long time requirement on project completion. It might be a case of, well, the sooner we get approved, the sooner we can get started. So I'm looking for specific advice on that.
Thank you, Councilman. I would so request consideration of second reading suspension, only in that with all of these projects and all of the projects that we have in progress right now, we're seeing significant pricing fluctuations of equipment and materials. And the sooner that we can get the contractor turned loose on defining that in relation to their bid. Now, this project was bid during this pandemic period. So I'm hoping that bid price reflects, but I don't want that to get stale, market fluctuations to change, and then we're, having to reconcile that with the contractor immediately before we even start any work. So for that reason, I would request consideration for second reading.
Okay, thank you.
So-
Mr. Miller, you have a follow-up?
I don't.
Oh, you do not. Okay. Ms. Baker.
Just a couple of questions on a couple of statements you made. The deficiencies, what does that mean? How many times do they break down? Are all 5 the same as being in repair, the same type of repair? What is it that you find in the elevators that can't continue?
Sure. Through the chair to Councilwoman Baker. Some of them are age-based that we see common throughout the elevators, but I would say most importantly, elevators 4 and 5, which are the main freight handling, heavy lift elevators that come up from the kitchen and from the dock areas of Jail 2, those see more wear and tear. They're handling more weight. They're in operation more frequently. And so the things like the hoist cables, the steel cables that actually travel the elevators up and down, those wear out more frequently, have to be replaced. And there was a picture in the presentation, it was the second slide. It was a picture of the actual drive. That's the equipment that, oh, thank you, Ashley. See if I can go back to it real quick on the screen.
Just seems that all 5 at one time are all in the same type of need, that given that this could be a place where we vacate, that do we need to do all 5? Which ones are the most critical?
Yes.
And then can we use 4 of the 5? Can we use 3 of the 5?
Right.
I mean, that type of, I wondered if you went through that analysis.
We sure did. So the picture that I'm showing you on the left of that screen are the actual elevator gear machine. And so that's a motor that's just running continuously and then drives the gear of the machine that lifts the elevator up and down. So that wheel to the right is just moving a lot, especially on 4 of those 5 elevators. So as I mentioned, we bid this project out with 3 line items. 1 for elevators 4 and 5, which are the most critical and the highest used. 1 for elevators 2 and 3, which support the main inmate transport, but we can also do that on elevators 4 and 5. And then elevator 1 is visitation. Critical, but probably the least critical, because there are other ways of meeting visitation needs within the jail now, whether it be remote visitation or I don't want to speak for the sheriff or the corrections administrator, but we did go through that thinking and set those line items up. If we needed to and could reduce this project size, we could de-scope 1 or probably 1 or at most 2 of those line items. But we have to do elevators 4 and 5 immediately, and those are the first in the phase to be ordered and installed. I hope that answers your question, Councilwoman.
So if I'm understanding, if I may, Chair, the critical 4 and 5 freight elevators are the worst.
Yes.
You're not going to be addressing 1, 2, and 3 right now. And if the jail perhaps moves forward, could that impact whether or not you would perhaps repair all 3? Or, I mean, does that change your outlook?
It could, and we're going to learn as we go based on 1, how we're able to proceed through elevators 4 and 5, and 2, what's happening with the correction center schedule and that timing. And when do I have to order equipment for those elevators? That's going to be the calculus as we go through this contract to determine whether those other 3 elevators do get performed under this contract or we're able to.
So not to exceed the 2.3 million.
That's correct.
That could be significantly less if things change.
Standing here to you today, I'm pretty certain that we'll probably do elevators 4 and 5 and 2 and 3. Elevator 1 remains a question to me, but it's also one that we have to address some deficiencies on. So whether I can do that on the maintenance side, it will be we'll determine what portion of the phase we do that work in or not.
Are you thinking that freight 4 and 5 will be done by late 2022?
Yes.
And how about 3 and 4? Yes, or
2 and 3?
2 and 3.
If it is in 2022, it'd be towards the latter half of the year. So we'll have a.
You'll have some. There will be a stagnation of time of ordering.
Yes, Councilwoman. Okay.
And if I may, you mentioned something about salvage value. What is it that you think you can salvage of what it is that we're doing? Is it for our own use, or would you sell it outright? I mean, how do you salvage elevators?
Right. So speculation on my part at this point, but if we're putting in if the correction center is on its current schedule, 4 years from now, we have 4-year-old geared machines.
Right.
In my mind, there's a potential not for us, because we can't do those in parallel. We have to have one operating while the other is built. But there may be salvage value for those geared machines for a secondary market. We'll investigate that with our elevator consultant and with our elevator suppliers and understand that. I just wanted to make mention that we're going to think about that and make sure that can be maximized if at all.
And one last question I had. You mentioned also that some elevators don't go to all floors.
Yes,
So are there any that go to all floors? Probably the freight elevators go
4
to?
and 5, yes, those freight ones. do.
1 and 5.
4 and 5.
4 and 5.
Yep.
So visitors have to use a specific elevator if they wanted to visit.
That is correct. That is correct.
4 and 5 go all the way. Okay, thank you.
Okay?
And that's based on the, excuse me, Councilwoman, that's based on the configuration of the jail.
Right.
If you're familiar with Jail 2, that is a 2-over-2 high-rise, so you have, for example, I'm going to get my floors wrong, but the odd floors are a housing unit, and the even floors are a housing unit above them in the same area, and that's the visitation level of the housing unit.
Different
So, yes,
destinations.
exactly. Mhm.
All righty, thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions from colleagues? Yeah, Mr. Miller.
I'll make a motion to refer Resolution 2021-0221 to the full council with recommendation for second reading suspension.
Okay, and thank you. And could I have a second? I have a second from Ms. Conwell for sending R 2021-0221 on for second reading suspension. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And as far as miscellaneous business, just really quickly for committee members, we got some questions out to Metro based on the legislation we were talking about, legislation request, and then also with the Ms. Director Lockett, she also has pared down some of the information that she put forward, and I'll be sending that to you guys to take a look at before we have anybody back in here to discuss that pending legislation.
Sounds good.
Okay. If there's nothing further, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and we're adjourned.